but let's go faster. What? Oh. This game. I love it, but it can be weird. How did that get triggered? So I don't know. There's some interesting dialogue there from, and actually you get interesting dialogue from, I want to say most of your party. Whenever you find a star map, they always comment on it. It's like, oh, this is weird, or there's an artifact of the dark side. I don't think they ever really explain why it's an artifact of the dark side, other than it just is. And what constitutes an artifact of the dark side? Is it like just inherently evil? And how does dark side? How does the Force work through a technological? I almost said technological being, like a technological machine, just a machine. Again, probably just asking too many questions. At some point, you're just supposed to take it at face value and say, like, it just is. It's space magic. Why do you question it? But I don't think it's too outlandish to say, hey, when you say it's an artifact of the dark side, what does that mean? I'm an idiot. Big dummy came in here without HK-47. Oh, so embarrassed. Sorry. Thankfully, we can just get him right away. Come, my beautiful droid. I want to say 16 should probably be enough. That's my repair skill right now. It's either 16 or 18 if memory serves correctly, to get all his dialogue. HK-47, I mean. So we might just rush through that after we're done with Bastila.
Query. What do you...
Wait. Time for a walk. Let's save right here. Probably unnecessary.
Query.
I want information on Sand People culture.
Protocol. This will be a very sensitive topic, Master. You will want to be careful with your questions or risk of...
Tell me the history of your clan.
Translation. You have been told that to be considered worthy of... Translation.
Here is a dragon pearl.
Translation. He is stupefied, Master. He never thought you could return with such an item. Such a thing has not been done in many years. Translation. He will allow you to meet the storyteller, but also gives a warning. If you dare to repeat the histories incorrectly, you will be killed. Translation. The storyteller will be summoned to one of the rooms here in the Enclave. He seems to think this is a great honor for you, Master.
Alright, tell him farewell for now.
Translation. We are free to leave.
Get a little bit of experience for that, I guess. But 250 experience in exchange for the Great Dragon Pearl. Possibly the best lightsaber lightsaber crystal we get. that's not an equitable trade-off.
Translation. He identifies himself as the storyteller, Master. He has been told of your warrior skills and will speak the history to you.
Now, just brief note. If I held this position within the Tusken Raiders, I would probably request that my title change from storyteller to lore master. But that's me just being pretentious. I am honored. Ask him what he records.
Translation. Translation. There is only one accepted history, passed orally to each successive generation. Translation. A book or datapad can be taken away, cheapening the value of what it contains. To commit it to paper or storage is to remove it from the people.
Oral histories are often inaccurate.
Translation. Translation. He says that you dare not question the accuracy of his information. The stories are learned perfectly by each successive storyteller. Translation. In fact, they aren't allowed to speak the stories aloud unless they are exact. Any error is considered a blasphemy punishable by death. Criticism. It seems inefficient to me, Master. A score of apprentice storytellers would be slaughtered each generation. What if the elder died before completing the teachings?
Now, HK47 makes a compelling argument there as to why the accuracy of these stories should be questioned. However, I'll say that only one person is told to is given the authority to speak these stories per clan. And even the chieftain will refuse to speak of it, even when you give him the Great Dragon Pearl. So I personally read into this as this act can actually be accurate, because if you limit your people from repeating the stories, you're potentially limiting the possibility of outside influence corrupting the actual veracity of the story. That's not to say that oral keeping your history transferring your history orally is efficient. It's not, but I would say the restrictive way in which it is kept probably lends a little bit more credibility than if anybody was allowed to tell a story. That's a good question. Ask him that.
Translation. Translation. Apprentices are trained from birth. Very few speak the words in error. Storytellers are most often lost in battle between tribes. Translation. Any tribe that loses its storyteller is obviously unworthy of existing. They lose their connection to history and destroy themselves with infighting soon after.
Interesting. What topics can I choose from?
Translation. Translation. You may choose to hear the history, or you may choose not to. Their history is a single entity that cannot be partitioned. Translation. The only exception is in continuing the tales once they have begun. If you leave, when you return, he will continue from where he left off.
Begin the history.
Translation. Translation. It begins with the ancient times. They were not sand people, for there was no sand. The land was green with life, and they walked without wrappings. Translation. Though the land was beautiful, they lived apart from the land. They built their walls high and saw beyond the horizon. They dared to reach the stars. Translation. There are no words for how long ago this was. It was before the outsiders, before the abduction, before the cities fell, before the builders.
The builders? I want to ask questions about what I've heard.
Cautionary, I should warn you, Master, that any questioning of their interpretation may be seen as trying to change the meaning of what was said. Clarification. They may consider this to be speaking the words in error, a blasphemy they would attempt to kill you for.
I want to ask something about the ancient time.
Clarification. It would appear that they once had a thriving technologically advanced society, but were wiped out by a much more sophisticated alien species.
Ask him if these builders resemble any modern species.
Translation. Translation. He only understands the builders as an iconic force meant to test the resolve of his people. He is not making sense, Master. Clarification. They claim their stories are repeated unchanged, but they have demonized these builders. In their minds, they wreaked such havoc they could not possibly be flesh and blood.
Ask if they have an image we could compare with current species.
Cautionary. Master, this line of questioning may be interpreted as attempting to change the story. He may react poorly.
Oh god, it's been a while. Yeah, no, I do know that they can get hostile, so I'm gonna take HK's 47 warning there. Is there anything, can he clarify how long ago Tatooine was green with life?
Doubting. I don't believe he can, Master. Even if their stories are exact and unchanged, it is likely they were first told thousands of years after these events occurred. This has become very much like a creation myth for his people. There is no date. It simply was.
I want to ask something about a different part of history. Or actually, let's return to my other question.
Obedient. I will ask whatever you wish, Master.
Continue the history from where we left off.
Translation. Translation. His arrogant people touched the stars, and this sin drew the attention of the builders. The builders did not touch the stars, they lashed them to millstones. Translation. Great demons of metal stripped the world of its riches, until all that was left was the green of the ground. The great cities were lifted away. Translation. Those that had used the wealth were taken along with it. Transgressors abducted to serve past the sky, seeding the stars with penitent, adaptable slaves.
I want to ask questions about what I've heard.
Cautionary. Remember my...
Yep. I want to ask something about the time of enslavement.
Clarification. I believe they were occupied by this technologically superior species for a substantial period. Stripping an entire planet of usable resources would have taken generations.
How many of his people were taken off-world?
Translation. Translation. He has no number. He claims that those that were taken were examples of the worst of his kind, arrogant and uncaring of the land. Doubtful. Master, this is just another distortion due to their demonization of the builders. It's like claiming an aspect of his people were taken, not actual individuals. Clearly, history has colored his view. Of course, only the inferior meatbags were taken. The remaining were his ancestors, after all, and must have been special.
Now, I just want to make a comment here. HK-47 is clearly doing the thing that the Sand people don't want to do with their history. Like, he's clearly coloring in details and adding footnotes and his own opinions of it. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, if the Zen people could understand his basic, they would tear him apart for being an asshole. Um, why would the invaders have done this?
Obvious. The same reason Zerka Corporation is attempting it now. Expanding empires need tremendous amounts of resources.
Let's return to my other questions.
Obedient.
Continue the history from where we left off.
Translation. Translation. There came a time when the builders were also judged for their crimes. After generations, a plague weakened them, and the time of the Great War began. Translation. The builders faltered, and his people realized why they had been punished, so that they understood the crime and would now strike down the greater offender. Translation. They worked chaos in the machines, so they destroyed themselves. The builders fought back, laying waste to the green that had been misused with fire from above. Translation. Soil became glass, grinding to sand, but the fight was long planned, and his people were safe. Deep in cave homes carved from valley wall, they were free.
I want to ask questions about what I've heard.
Cautionary.
Yeah. I want to ask about the Great War.
Clarification. The occupying force suffered some sort of species-wide plague that lowered their numbers over time. His people used this extended weakness to sabotage their larger ships. The response of the builders appears to have been to lay waste to the entire surface of Tatooine.
What kind of weapon could do such damage?
Clarification. I may not have properly conveyed how long they fought with the builders. Given time, any number of armaments could destroy a world. Hypothesis. Perhaps this is another distortion. Their climate may have begun to fail due to their unrestrained development even before the builders arrived. Looking back thousands of years later, such a shift could easily be attributed to the much-hated conquerors.
Don't suggest that to him. How could they repel such a powerful species?
Doubting. They didn't, Master. They struck a blow, but the storyteller only believes they won because the builders were gone when they emerged from their caves. That does not mean they defeated anyone. It seems clear that the builders simply sterilized their problem and left. The enemy judged them not worthy to fight.
How could they survive such an attack?
Hypothesis. If his people were moving away from technology for a long time under the builders, they may have had extensive cave systems that could grant shelter. I would also suggest that, given the evidence of the massive shift in the nature of their society, most of them did not survive.
I want to, let's return to my other questions.
Obedient.
Continue the history from where we left off.
Translation. Editing, if I may, Master. This section of his tale details several millennia of the Long Walk, their nomadic wanderings as they accept their identity in a desert world. Rather than strain my circuits on his dialect, might we just assume there was much fighting over who has the biggest bantha and move on to more recent things?
If you can gently encourage that, go ahead.
Translation. Translation. The tribes spread far, distant from each other, but all as sand people and all cherished the land that remained. The sand would not be misused. Translation. Then machines fell from the stars again, outsiders like you that brazenly walked apart from the land. And greater still was the insult to come. Translation. These outsiders reminded them of their past transgression, of the time when they too walked apart from land. The outsiders, your kind, looked like their ancient abducted. Translation. So it is to the current sons that the Sand People hate all outsiders and give them no footing. You come again, time after time, adaptable slaves to the machine.
Is there anything further? No, wait, no. I want to ask questions about what I've heard.
Cautionary. Remember my warning, Master.
I want to ask about the long walk.
Impatience. Master, I refuse to inconvenience you with this. He spouted names of petty tribal fights in deserts so distant they might as well be across the galaxy. Really, Master, I'm sure it's important to him, but it has nothing of value that you could ever put to use.
We'll have to discuss this impudence, HK-47.
Agreement. Of course, Master. Just no more of their inane wandering.
Let's return to my other question. Oh, let's ask something about the Outsiders.
Clarification. They appear to hate humanity with a passion, only rivaled by their hatred of the Builders. For some reason, you resemble what they once were. Perhaps there is a lingering fear that you are their tainted selves returning from exile among the stars.
Is it a physical or societal similarity?
Cautionary. Master, if you mean to suggest that humanity is ancestrally linked to ancient Tatooine, you will strain his belief system to its pitiful meatbag maximum.
I want to ask something. Let's return to my other question.
Obedient. I will ask whatever you wish, Master.
Continue the history from where we left off.
Translation. Translation. Now that you have heard the whole of the history, you may select a piece of it to hear again.
Alright, I guess that does it.
Obedient. I will ask.
I'll return later.
Translation. Translation. We are free to leave.
Okay. This is fascinating. This is the most interesting piece of writing in this game, at least in my opinion. Even the implication that actually, and because we don't know what sand people look like underneath their robes, I think there might be some old, no longer canon comics that show them to be this sort of like hideous looking monsters. But like I said, I don't think that's canon anymore, and I could even be misremembering if such a comic even exists. Brief side note, I reference different things here and there. I'm not really the biggest Star Wars fan out there. I know that probably comes across as very disingenuous, but I like the movies. I like some of the movies. Let me be very clear about that. I like some of them, not all of them. But really, to me, Star Wars thrived in Legends. As a kid, I was told if you read a lot, you can become smarter, and I wanted to be a smarter person. So one day in Borders, I picked up a Star Wars book. It was a Republic Commando book, and I picked it up because I liked Republic Commando, which came out a couple of years after this game. And from there on, I just read a bunch of Star Wars books. And Star Wars to me is interesting. It's much more interesting outside of the movies. That's where Star Wars could expand. It could go a little weird. It could be a little less commercial, if you will. Not that being commercial is a bad thing. But there's some things I want to discuss about what we just heard, but I'm just gonna go to the cantina and then take a couple of minutes to just speak into the microphone. Oh yeah, I didn't drop anything. Yeah, whatever. You're giving me something, I'm not losing anything, but we're not doing this quest. We're not doing it. Too many dark side points. Anyway, this is what we heard from the Tusken Raiders is fascinating because it sort of implies that humans could actually be Tusken Raiders, or the portion of the Tusken Raiders that left the planet from the Builders, which in turn, every Star Wars movie starts up with in a galaxy far, far away, which always sort of came across as like, well, why are you saying in a galaxy far, far away? Like, are you saying like Star Wars somehow exists within our own real universe? And if that is the case, like, are you saying that the humans that we see in Star Wars are actually the same as us, as opposed to this fantasy race that just happens to develop the same way we did, and they just happen to be able to use magic space wizardry, space magic. So, what do some of these things imply? Do they imply that actually Tatooine is our Earth, and this is where this is the end point, or how our planet eventually looks like, because this is where we're from. Some interesting things to speculate about, nothing concrete or anything. And again, I've mentioned this several times. Knights of the Old Republic, not canon anymore. Bastila, Avner over here, HK-47 don't exist in canon anymore. But at the time, that right there, which is hidden, and you have to give up one of the most valuable items that you can gain in this adventure, just really explodes the the lore of some aspects of the Star Wars galaxy. Now, not too long ago, I mentioned that I suspect that Bioware really didn't care about making this game, and that they merely used the Star Wars license in order to tell a story that they would eventually use for themselves in Mass Effect. Of course, this is all speculation, and a lot of that speculation is based on some of the bitterness that I continue to hold more than a decade after Drew Caprichier, the lead writer of this game, wrote a novel after Knights of the Old Republic 2 to tie up some of the loose ends here, and I just hate that novel. I hate how how Bioware decided to wrap up the stories of these games as a sacrificial lamb to bring forth Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO that still is playable. Anyway, all that could actually be like one point to say, hey, Bryce, you're full of shit. Bioware clearly cared about this game. Look at that fascinating lore that they dedicated to the Tusken Raiders. That took that certainly took a great writing effort to make the Tusken Raiders a seemingly just antagonistic force in the Star Wars movies into something fascinating to speculate about and learn more from. Anyway, enough rambling. I getting a little better at speaking to a microphone whenever I want to get a thought out and not playing the game and constantly getting caught off. I forget what these guys do. Anyway,
Back already? Have you even looked for the holocron yet?
I have the holocron, Mother. I'm just not sure I want to give it to you.
And why not? Would you deny me even that?
I've never denied you anything, Mother. You may think I don't remember what it was like before I left for the Order, but I do. You were the one who pushed Father to go on one treasure hunt after the other. You loved living in wealth. You think I don't remember the fights? You were eager to send me to the Jedi even though I didn't want to go. You took Father away from me. And now this holocron is all I have of him.
Fool girl. You have a strange way of remembering things. That wasn't...
No, I don't wish to argue with you anymore, Mother. It's time we parted ways now, for both our benefit.
Maybe you should listen to what she has to say.
You don't know her. My mother is notoriously deceptive when she wants something. Why should she have the holocron?
Is it too difficult to believe that I am a dying woman who simply wishes to see her husband one last time?
I find it difficult to believe anything you say, Mother.
It sounds like you've already made up your mind. No, wait, no. That's not the right dialogue. Maybe one of you should give the first... maybe... I speak for a living, if you could believe me. Maybe one of you should be the first to give the other a break.
You're right. It shames me, but I find it difficult to let go of the past. I'm sorry, Mother.
I was hard on you, dear. I wasn't a very good mother to you. I know that. Your father loved you so. He wanted you to be just like him. He wanted to take you on his hunts, but I said they were too dangerous.
Treasure hunting is a dangerous occupation.
I always tried to keep him from the dangerous ones, but he would have none of it. It was a reckless life we led. Always moving. I didn't want that for you.
So that's why you gave me to the Order?
What do your father and I have to show for all those years of hunting? Nothing. That was no life for anyone. Especially not someone as gifted as you, your father. He spent all his last years trying to pay for my treatments. That's why he went for the pearls. I begged him not to, but...
Your treatments?
I'm dying, Bastila. I did not lie about that. It's been a long time in the coming, and there's really nothing that can be done anymore. I told your father to let me go, but you know how he was. Stubborn, like you.
I'm so sorry, Mother. I don't know what to say.
Keep the holocron, Bastila. It would do me good to know you have it. This talking to you. This is what I really needed before I
know. Thank you. I'm glad we talked too.
Oh, no. You said you had important business, and you were never one to mince words. You there. You take care of my daughter, you hear me?
I'll do my best.
That's good. I'll feel a lot better knowing there's somewhere to watch.
Where are you going to go?
It doesn't matter, dear. Don't you worry about me.
Here, take these 500 credits. That's all I have. Go to Coruscant and find a doctor. I'll meet you there after what I have to do.
But I already told you there's nothing that can...
Please take it. I want to see you again, when we can talk.
All right, I will. You do what you have to, Bastila. You go make your father and I proud.
I'll try. Farewell, Mother.
All right.
How can I help?
So do you feel better now?
Yes. That brought me a lot of peace. More than I thought it would have. Thank you for urging me toward it. After all my training, I would have thought it would have been easier. Apparently, I still have much to learn.
Actually, like if this quest doesn't end well, and they just don't make up, Basil, I'm fairly certain, just refuses to continue talking to you, in the sense that you can no longer progress her dialogue till the end of it. You can, of course, complete all her dialogue before doing this quest, but if you're like in the middle of it, as I was, you could potentially lose out on the rest of it. Well, that's all. We just talk. We'll talk later. Don't hog up all the screen time here. I say that as I'm about to now stare back at my microphone and talk about her and the conclusion of this quest. Bastila obviously comes across as kind of cold-hearted, very distant when you initially meet her, very much greater than thou, hoity-toity, I'm above the rest of you peasants kind of way. And this quest sort of shows that she's. It suggests that she's actually a more open person, more warm-hearted than she lets on, and is clearly somebody that hasn't bought in or hasn't really been completely indoctrinated into the Jedi way of separating yourself from your emotions. And this is good character development because, obviously there's progression from going from Ice Queen to a real person. And the way I have always sort of interpreted this sort of duality of Bastila is that she's, maybe if we weren't who we are, Bastila is actually a much more open person. But because we are who we are, she is guarded and sort of the snobby. I don't want to say bitch, but because I don't really think that. But out of just snobby, spoiled brat that she comes across when you first meet her, and even sometime after that. So that's a long-winded way of saying, great job. No notes. Don't have any suggestions as to how to improve this. But I'm sure it's possible. Now for mission.
Just
although
the
she's not
person
necessary
I was
for
hoping
this.
to see.
Save it, Griff. I'm not talking to you. I want no part of whatever you're involved in.
Okay, sis, I see you're still mad. Fair enough. I don't think you could help me with this anyway. It's more of a job for your friend here.
Come on, Griff, get to the point.
As you may know, tack glands can be refined to a very potent powder. It's the primary ingredient in Teresian ale. That's what makes it so strong. Of course, now that Taris is pretty much wiped from the face of the map, Teresian ale has become somewhat scarce and very, very valuable. Luckily, I know the secret recipe.
So you want to open a bar? Hey, listen. In real life, a bar is always a profitable business venture if you have the capital. So it's not a bad idea, but I think he has more than just that.
I know this guy. He's with the Exchange. Now, if I give him a small sample of Teresian ale, he says he can synthesize it and reproduce it in mass quantities. Problem is, I need one of those tack glands to make the first batch, and now that Taris is a smoking ruin, the only place to find tack is on Kashyyyk. If you can get your hands on one of those tack glands, I'll make it worth your while.
Griff, are you blind? Can't you see you're talking to a Jedi? We're out here trying to save the galaxy. We can't waste time on this.
Please, you have to help me. I promised this guy from the Exchange a sample of Teresian ale. If I don't come through for him, he's gonna break my legs. Or worse.
Don't worry, Griff. We'll get those tag glands for you.
Yeah, I knew you'd come through for me. You won't regret this. You'll see. Just don't take too long, okay? This guy from the Exchange could stop by any day. I kinda told him I already had the stuff, so if he shows up and I'm empty-handed, well, let's just say I really, really hope it doesn't come to that.
Real scumbag. Just to reiterate, good way to improve Mission's character is to show her what she could be if she were following in Griff's path. Which very recently could be, because she's the only role model she's ever had in her life, because she doesn't, as she said, she doesn't even remember her parents. The only sort of parental, for lack of a better term, was her brother. And that's Taris. I could do the soup bikes, but I haven't decided if I want to do that in this playthrough or not. It's just more credits, and I'm not really buying anything. So why do I want more credits? To buy more stuff that I want, but I might just do it at the end. If I want to like load up on resources. So we're back at the Ebon Hawk. Before before moving on, I want to check something. No, that's not what I wanted. Can I not change out? That might be nice of the Old Republic too. Yeah, just Karth. The Canderous. I'm gonna talk to you, and quite frankly, don't want to do it with you wearing these stupid goggles. Let's just get back in here. I do want to use HK, so I guess I could buy him a better blaster rifle. Either that or just give him Canderous his blaster rifle. So I guess I could have some use for money that way, because we really don't get just out in the world, we don't get a good blaster rifle that we can modify.
Yeah, what do you want?
I was wondering if you had any more war stories.
I was one of the best youth warriors in the clan Ordo in my time. No one before me had mastered the power of our basilisk war droids as quickly as I had. Except Mandalore himself, of course. In those days, we were sweeping across the Outer Rim, destroying all who fought us. Young Mandalores would prove themselves in real combat with unknown opponents above 1,000 worlds. Each brought back stories of his achievements.
What was your story?
I remember it well, orbiting high above a placid world, its defenses just stirring. As was tradition, I would go ahead of the first wave to find enemies in the thickest fighting. I remember sitting there in my armor, linked directly with the basilisk thrumming beneath me, my heart racing with fear of the coming battle.
I didn't think Mandalorians got afraid. No, wait. Yeah.
Every new warrior has to fear to understand how to beat it. You must know that. The doors opened in front of me, and the air was sucked out of the drop bay, scattering crystals of frozen vapor across my path. I can't describe what it feels like to look directly down at a world, falling continuously as you circle it, with barely 15 centimeters of armor plate protecting you. When the magnetic locks disengaged on my droid, I plunged out of the drop bay towards the battle that waited below.
Those droids sure are something.
The exhilaration, the euphoria I felt as I streaked into the atmosphere, dodging self-guided projectiles and beam weapons, was unmatched. An 80-kilometer plunge through the atmosphere, dodging and weaving, the outside of my armor glowing like the sun with the heat of re-entry. And with barely 30 meters to spare, I twisted and skimmed the surface, firing at the giant beam generators that were in my path. The explosion from that sent shock waves that leveled the entire complex around it. It was the moment of my life.
That was some fight.
I'll never forget those times. But things are different now. We can't go on fighting the way we did. There are too few of us left now. But I really don't want to talk about this anymore. I trust I've satisfied your curiosity for now. Is there something else you want to know?
Nothing for now.
Your choice. I'm here if you want something done right.
I wonder if he has
Yeah,
any...
what do you want?
Yes. Nothing? Okay.
Your choice. I'm here if you want something done right.
We've already talked to Canderous a couple of times, but I keep sort of... So I've given everybody a bit of a the same treatment of, like, as we talk to them, I comment on their character development, yada yada yada, all that good stuff. I keep sort of avoiding talking about Canderous, not because he's uninteresting. He's actually very interesting. It's just that I haven't really organized my thoughts on Mandalorians, Canderous. And when I say Mandalorians, I mean the Legends lore on Mandalorians and the current lore on Mandalorians, which has become very popular thanks to the hit Disney Plus show, The Mandalorian. I'll say this right now. I don't know. Like I said, not the biggest Star Wars fan in the world. I don't know when the term Mandalorian was first coined in the Star Wars mythos. I don't even know if when the lore of Boba Fett was being made, if he was even considered a Mandalorian, or what was that? Because the word Mandalorian doesn't even get uttered in episode 5, 6, and 2, where Jango Fett and Boba Fett appear. And I think it got even retroactively, like it could be possible that they were made Mandalorians retroactively. Sorry for being redundant. After it was shown that oh hey, these guys sort of have the same helmet type that Mandalorians have, so they must be the same kind. But that's wild speculation that I can't back up. Needless to say, I need to organize my thoughts on Canterous and Mandalorians before speaking more of that, which we will get to, but as of right now. Oh, and also, Knights of the Old Republic 2 goes wild with Mandalorian lore. So that's also more things that I have to organize in my mind to speak about intelligently. But as of right now, it's established they are a warrior culture, very much in the same vein as Klingons from Star Trek. But as you know, they say in the Mandalorian show, Mandalorians aren't a race; it's a creed. Because it's being a Mandalorian is not a race; it's a way of life. It's being space warriors, which very cool, awesome. But like onions and ogres, there's more layers to it than that. So that is what it is. I want to get to HK-47, but before that, I think we can advance with Karth a little bit.
Yes, what's on your mind?
We didn't end our last discussion very well.
I'm not very good at this. I know I owe you an apology. More than one, probably. I was just so desperate to finally face Saul directly in the battle over Terrace. And now the Jedi have us looking for these star maps. I know this mission is important, it's just, I feel a bit useless. I can fight, sure, but I'm no Jedi. All this feels completely out of my league.
How does that excuse your actions?
It doesn't, I know. It's been a while since I've even had to think about that sort of thing. I just hate not knowing what's going on and feeling this helpless. But I shouldn't have taken that out on you. I've been a royal pain in the backside, haven't I?
Don't worry about it, Karth.
No, I do worry about it. I've traveled the lanes more than once. I should know better than this. So, I'm sorry. Will you accept my apology?
Okay, only if you agree to work with me for once.
Done. Let's get underway then, shall we, partner?
All right, we're peeling away at the onion that is Karth. Okay, that's enough Shrek references. Let's see. We might be even able to get all of HK-47 dialogue all in once.